This is PWT Talks NXT for August 5th, 2025. I'm Nate Lindberg, your host for the evening, talking NXT here with David Miller, who's our alt perspective report writer for NXT. When did the report tonight, Kelly is obviously not here, so Kelly's not doing the report. David graciously stepped in to fill Kelly's shoes tonight. So David, thank you very much for stepping in.
Thank you for having me here, Nate. I appreciate it. Glad to be here, as always.
Yes. So we had a pretty action-packed episode of NXT tonight. I thought this was a pretty good show, a lot going on. We had a pretty ridiculous Joe Hendry appearance tonight. We'll talk all about that in a little bit. I thought that was great. I actually laughed out loud. It was fantastic.
I did
Um,
too.
so let's talk about our main event. We had Sol Ruca versus Tatum Paxley for the North American Championship. This I thought was a pretty good match. Before the match actually started, I was actually talking with my buddy Jobin, friend of the show, sometimes co-host with me, and both of us were saying like, doesn't feel like this is like we love Sol Ruca, we love Tatum Paxley, but it's like it doesn't feel like this is a main event. But I feel like they wound up delivering a main event quality match. Sol Ruca obviously retained her title. Um, excuse me. We still had some involvement from Lash Legend and Nia Jax, who had been fighting all night. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, like I said, I thought they had some good chemistry here. The involvement from the culling kind of I guess par for the course for what you expect from the culling. But also I thought interesting too, and this is I guess a little off subject, but yeah, we kind of reading reports that WWE had canceled Speed on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. I still can't call it X. It's weird. And Sol Ruca's holding up
Yeah.
the Speed Championship at the end of the show. I thought that was at least notable. Um, but David, what did you think of the match? And did you think that this belonged in kind of the main event slot, or was there something else on the show that may have fit in that slot a little bit better?
On paper, no. Now, I do, just for the record, I do think that Sol Ruca could main event against the Broom and it would be a good main event. But no, her versus Paxley, no, I didn't think it was main event material, but they made it work with all the involvement that was going on, with everything that was going on. And Paxley really impressed me tonight. She stepped up her game. She kept up with Ruka, and I was really surprised. I'm not sure what happened there at the end. Maybe you can figure that out with Izzy Dame and Sean Spears kind of having a little issue over that doll. I'm not sure what that was about, but with the culling out there and Zari out there, you knew that there was going to be a lot going on. And then with Nia Jackson, Lash Legend, they were fighting through everything, like you said, through the whole show. They came out there, basically crashed the party, and literally crashed the barricade. Nia did when she, Spirit and Legend through the barricade there, and of course, that gave Ruka the opening to hit that soul snatcher on Paxley, take advantage of all the confusion. It worked. I mean, as a main event, it worked with all the stuff that they did, all the actions that they packed into it, and yeah, it was really, it was wild. It was fun. I really enjoyed the main event.
Brock Benningfield in the chat. Was the doll loaded? Was it a shiv? We saw Sean Spears try to hand Tatum Paxley the doll, and I'm not really sure why either. Like, and Izzy Dame went to stop him. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Weird. I mean, she finds. I don't want to say the power from the doll, but I mean inner strength, I guess, from the doll. Um, uh, weird
Mm.
angle, and this is what I mean. I don't feel like it belongs in the main event because there's some of these. I mean, playing with dolls, and just the culling in general, I just don't necessarily feel like is a main event act. But that said, like I mean, as I guess we both said at this
Agreed.
point, it certainly worked. It certainly worked. Um, but let's see what else in the chat here. Good fella. It seems Tatum gives her whole body when taking bumps. Did look out of place for me a few times, but they worked past it. Thought the main event was great. Didn't love the doll distracting thing. I didn't really either. A little strange. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it
And
worked.
the sound going out too during that period because
Well, I'm sorry, what was that?
so and the audio going out, cutting out during that moment when the issue with the doll was going on. At least the audio went out on my end. I don't know if it did on if that was
Yeah, yeah, I think
too.
they were censoring the crowd, but yeah, so it didn't really help.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. No, it is what it is, I guess. But we'll kind of figure out where it goes from there. I I don't know. We've seen a little bit of like tension in the culling here and there. I mean, sometimes it looks like they're a complete cohesive unit, and other times we see a little bit of those cracks. But I feel like WWE as a whole tends, at least lately, they kind of like to do that with like all of their teams. Like there's always something going on. Even like thinking back to Fraxium and stuff like that. But so yeah, like I said, not a bad match. I think they finally got it, in the end, and it worked for a main event. It certainly worked for a main event. Um, let's see, we had we'll go backwards here. We'll go to the Ethan Page segment. Ethan Page came out kind of talking, touting about himself as the greatest North American champion. He also wanted to get through his rendition of "Oh Canada" since he wasn't able to do that last week. He got rudely interrupted. He got about 5 words, maybe I don't even know, at least maybe 5 words into "Oh Canada" when Tavon Heights interrupted him. And of course, going back and forth a little bit on the mic. Looks like Tavon wants to challenge for that title. Chelsea Green's music winds up hitting, and we see Chelsea Green and her secret Hervis walk down. Um, I, I think this was a good. I think this is kind of a good like cameo appearance for Chelsea, and I think this is gonna lead into a match for next week. Chelsea Tavion, or Tavy off, as she said, kind of went back and forth on the mic, and she said that you don't have what it takes to hit a woman like me, or something to that effect. And he's like, no, I don't, and he winds up decking Ethan Page. They kind of breaks out into a bit of a brawl. Saw Piper Niven jump in and grab Chelsea Green like a member of the Secret Service should. Um, and Tavion Heights says he's going to find that woman for next week, I think insinuating that we're going to see a match between Tavion Heights and a female partner to be named, and Chelsea Green and Ethan Page. Um, but I thought the pairing of Ethan Page and Chelsea Green, I I didn't really think about it before it happened, but man, it's a great pairing. They're both annoying in the exact same type of way. That ego trip, pun somewhat intended. Um, so I think it really, really works. And obviously, the caveat of them both being Canadian and kind of playing off of the Canadian dumb American, stupid American thing. I think it works. Well, how did you feel about this segment and that pairing between Ethan Page, Chelsea Green?
Yeah, again, on paper, the whole Canadian heel gimmick thing seems overdone and out of place, but my gosh, if anybody can make it work, it's Ethan Page because he, like you said, he is so naturally annoying You just want to see somebody. I say this about Swipe Right on Evolve. You just want to see somebody punch him in the nose just by looking at him. He just has that look, and he can pull this off. And then yes, of course, when Chelsea Green's music hit, the crowd, that was a huge pop. They loved it, and because I mean, yes, she's a heel, but she's just so damn entertaining as a heel. You can't help but love when she comes out. And you're right, she is a heel in the same vein as Ethan Page. She's annoying. You want to see somebody slap her across the mouth. You want to see somebody shut her up. And the Secret Harvest, Piper Niven, and Alba Fire. Oh my gosh! And the way she was, in Piper Niven's arms like a scared child when Tavion, punched Pace. But that was a good segment. I really enjoyed that. I think Tavion Heights would be an acceptable opponent for Page. Something fresh for him. But yeah, good segment. I love the cameos that have been made here lately in NXT from the main roster stars like Chelsea Green and Nia Jax, and that's working out well. I think that's a really good pairing her with Lash Legend, two big, powerful women who could really have a really physical match. I think that's a good pairing there too. But yeah, love the segment.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think with like Tavion Heights, I think this is a good position for him. I mean, they're obviously breaking him off from the NQCC after he won his match last week, and now kind of what is next for him as a single star. And I think calling out the North American champion, it's a good way to kind of position him as somebody to take seriously. I mean, obviously, we'll see what happens now with this, alleged upcoming intergender tag match that I don't think necessarily was made official, but we're probably going to wind up having next week, or maybe Philadelphia or Heat Wave. We've got two big shows coming up back to back. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see where that goes. But I think it's a good position for Tavion, and I think it's going to be a great match. Both Tavion and Ethan Page are excellent performers in the ring, so I think it's gonna be, as they say, a barn burner. But yeah, I'm looking forward to
Mm-hmm.
that, especially if it does wind up on Heatwave, because I'll be there. Um, Lash Legend and Nia Jax you just brought up, so we may as well tiptoe over there. Um, we had one of our no, sorry, it wasn't our opening match. That was Blake Monroe and Kalani Jordan. It was our third match of the night. It was Thea Hale versus Nia Jax. Thea was they'd shown I don't know if it was an Instagram story, some sort of a social media post of her coffee sessions, Thea Hale's coffee sessions, and she's putting down Nia Jax and making fun of Nia Jax for the entirety of that Instagram story. Um, Nia, obviously there was some tension and things that happened last week too that led to this match, but she kind of poked the bear in those Instagram stories. Um, this was certainly a David versus Goliath type match if I ever saw one. Thea,
Mm-hmm.
absolute bump machine for Nia Jax. Nia's first singles match in NXT since 2016. They mentioned on commentary, which I thought was kind of cool. Um, uh, Nia is not one of my favorite people. Well, favorite wrestlers. I don't want to say people, favorite wrestlers. But I like what they've been doing with her actually since she's come back. To be honest, I think they've been using her pretty effectively, and she's been wrestling relatively safely and things like that. A lot of the complaints that I think a lot of that people had over the years kind of been, for the most part, squashed. But I like this pairing between her and Lash Legend. They had that moment at the Royal Rumble, or was it no, the Battle Royal. Sorry, Battle Royal. Not that long ago.
Evolution.
Thank you. At Evolution, I'm like, I know what I'm talking about, but brain is not recollecting right.
Yeah.
Um,
Evolution
but I think
Battle
it's a
Royal. Yeah.
Yes. They had that kind of moment there. Then there've been just naturally a lot of comparisons to Lash and Nia. I know we've talked about it here on the show. I've seen people bring up those comparisons online and whatnot. Um, I think like you said, I mean, the two absolute powerhouse wrestlers, kind of uh, just going at it. Now, what do you think? Do you think they're going to, because obviously Ava did make the match official between the two of them next week, so we're going to see, or was it next week or for Philly? I don't remember. It's coming up. It's either next week or in Philly.
Next week, I think.
Okay, I thought it was next week. Um, and so we're
Yeah.
gonna, obviously see that match. But do you think we may wind up seeing interference between? Actually, yeah, that's right. It is next week. I'm wondering if we may wind up
Uh-huh.
seeing interference from Jada Parker and or Thea Hale, and we kind of wind up seeing this, get I don't want to say dragged out, but I guess dragged out to Heatwave. What are your thoughts on something like that?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, first of all, Thea Hale. One point to make really quickly here is, if there's anyone on this planet that does not need to be anywhere near coffee, it's Thea Hale.
It's very
But
true.
she just again, she is so entertaining. How can you not love Thea Hale? And like you said, she was bouncing off Nia Jax like she was a Super Bowl or something. One of those. I mean, just taking bumps galore from Nia, and she got in a good amount of offense. I thought it was very, she got in, just the right amount of offense on Nia. But yeah, I love the pairing. And like you, I'm not the biggest Nia Jax fan in the world, but something about this pairing with Lash Legend works. For one thing, I like the carryover from Evolution into NXT, because Legend had been bragging to the women in the locker room about, hey, I single-handedly eliminated Nia Jax at Evolution. So the fact that Nia came in to just literally flatten her last week was, I was like, wow, hey, that's pretty cool. They're carrying this over. So I like the carryover. As far as uh, any involvement with Thea Hale and Jada Parker, I wouldn't mind it. I don't think it's necessarily needed. Um, but I think that that they could obviously make it work, because those are two, and again, two women who can really go, two women who have a lot of popularity, especially Jada Parker. I really think she is just almost main roster ready here with the following
Yeah.
she has. Um, they love her, and there's literally not much that she can do wrong at this point. So it would be entertaining to see. We'll see how it works out.
Yeah, no, I think the sky's the limit for Jada Parker. I mean, she's broken away from OTM so much. It's not like they're on completely
Oh,
different planes of existence
I've
at this point.
forgotten.
Yeah, right. That they
If
even
you
were
had
paired
mentioned it
together.
just now, I would have forgotten about it, because she was an. I mean, she was an afterthought, and 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 they are currently an afterthought. And Jada, she has, not only does she have the entering ability, but she's got the charisma. She can talk. She's quick witted. She can talk with the best of them. She's great on the stick. People love the character, and she's got that it, what I call that it factor. She has it.
No, 100%. And like I've got Sean's comment here. And Sean, thank you for earlier when you said I'm the man and you're glad David's here tonight. So I appreciate that. Uh, But I do think that Jada is main roster ready. I think she's been main roster ready for a little while. But I agree with Sean. Sean says that there shouldn't be a rush with her. I agree. I don't
Thank
want
you.
them to rush her up to the main roster just rush her up to the main roster. I want them to have something to do with something for her to do. That'll be impactful, because I think with her personality, the charisma, and then obviously her in-ring ability, there is a star right there in the making. I would love to see, her and Bianca Belair is a match that immediately comes to mind,
Oh
that I think
wow.
could be amazing. But I mean, there's so many possibilities for her on the main roster, and she's already gone through just about everybody in NXT at this point. For the most part, you get a few, I think. Yeah, Blake Monroe is one, and maybe Jordan Grace. I don't remember. But there's so many awesome possibilities for her on the main roster. I can't wait to actually see where her career takes her once she gets there.
Yeah, she will wind up there, obviously, but I do agree that there's no big rush. Let her rack up a little, rack up some more wins and win a few more feuds there in NXT, and move her up. Maybe Royal Rumble time. Around that time, WrestleMania possibly.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. If they definitely, yeah, they've got something for her to do, for sure.
She definitely belongs in the next Rumble. I mean,
Oh
She
God,
she's
yes.
definitely she should definitely be one of the top picks of the NXT women to go to the Rumble next year. Definitely, definitely.
I 100% agree with that. Sean also says here in the chat that she needs to be heel for a while at first on the main roster before she turns face. And I think that's the only way to bring her up to the main roster. She is the best when she is a heel. She hasn't really had a face run, so I mean, kind of a natural face run, I guess, because people just love to cheer for her. But ultimately, she's still a heel. Um, that's the only way I think that they could debut her. I don't think that if they were to debut her on the main roster as a face, they would have to quickly, I mean, so quickly, like almost like how Kevin Owens came in NXT as a face and then immediately turned on Sammy. They'd have to do something like that with her in order for it to really work. Um, Ryan in the chat,
Yeah,
Ryan Solario, Jada goes up now,
agreed.
should be lost in the shuffle, and yeah, I definitely agree there too. So, all right, anything else? Anything else to wrap up this segment before we move on?
No, I think we're good on that. We pretty much covered everything.
All right.
What was next?
Let's move on. This should be an easy one. Yoshiki Inamura versus Stax. We saw Stax try to give some advice to Inamura. I believe it was last week. I think it was last week. Inamura didn't necessarily want to take that advice because Stax does not fight with honor, and wound up leading into a match here this week. Great match. I thought this was a wonderful match. Inamura is so uh, he's got such a just a presence about him in the ring, but he's also I don't want to say strong style, but kind of, I really like his style in the ring. And obviously Stax is incredibly underrated. I think we talk about that quite a bit on the show. I love what Stax can do, and I think I'm hoping he breaks out as a singles competitor now that he's not with the D'Angelo family, or D'Angelo family is not even a thing, but you know what I mean. Um, uh, we saw right before this match, Ariana Grace walk up to Stax and check on him from last week to make sure he was okay after he got slapped by Inamura. He said he's okay. Ariana Grace comes out in the middle of the match, and she, oh my God, I'm completely blue. Did she slapped Inamura, right?
Yep, she did. Hmm.
Okay. All right, cool. I was just double checking.
Not as hard as Enamura slap Stack.
No, that's true. Not at all. Not at all. But with that slap, that was the referee was distracted. Josh Briggs came out, attacked Inamura. And
Yeah.
Stax was able to quickly get the win. But we saw a sinister after the match was over. We saw a real sinister look on Ariana Grace's face, and um, as well as Josh Briggs. Kind of wondering if they're maybe insinuating they're in cahoots. Looks like that might be the case. Um, I, I'm okay with that. Look, like Ariana Grace has spent more time in TNA lately than in here in NXT, so I'm glad they're giving her something to do. Um, I just, I don't know. I, I don't know how I feel about that pairing between her and Briggs. Like I want to see. I guess I need to see a little bit more, but right off the bat, I'm not sure how I necessarily if I'm excited for it or not. Um, how have you felt about this whole the whole feud between Inamora and Briggs since they've kind of split as a tag team, and the match tonight?
Well, I mean, Briggs and Enamura were a great tag team. They were highly entertaining, and I thought that the two of them together, Briggs had more value in a tag team with Enamura than he does as a singles wrestler. I That's my opinion. Uh, I think the two of them could have a great singles match together. Briggs is, he is good in the ring. He's powerful. He's got that explosive energy, and like you said, Enamura is just again, I hate to overuse the term, but he has that it factor. There's something about him, the way he carries himself. Plus, I mean, the man is strong as an ox. I mean, you remember the match he had with Obafemi, and good lord, he
Oh
was
yeah,
tossing around Obafemi like he was a small child, and Obafemi is a rather large individual here, so and yeah, the strikes, the energy, the explosive energy. The match tonight itself, I think Stax was more just a pawn in the storyline between Briggs and Inamura. I don't really think that there's going to be much to do with Stax and Inamura. I think Stax just kind of happened to be there. He is a very talented wrestler. I do agree with you. And again, like you said, it also gave Ariana Grace a reason to be on TV for a change. So that
yeah.
was good, good for her. But it accomplished what it was supposed to do, which was, hey, Briggs got in his little sneak attack against Enamura, and that was the whole purpose of the match, really. So mission accomplished there.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. Ryan, in the chat, do we think that this will lead to the reunion of Briggs and Jensen as heels? Um, I don't know. I uh, I mean, maybe. Um, I don't know. I want to say I hope not. 'Cause I kind of want to
Well,
see them.
I don't know how far ahead. I don't know how far ahead they tape Evolve, but Jensen just I believe 2 weeks ago made his debut on Evolve, and looks like they're going to be doing something with him on Evolve. So I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Again, I don't know how far in advance they tape Evolve. So not sure what's going on there,
Yeah,
but maybe, but probably not for a while.
yeah. I don't know. Like, I'm assuming they tape Evolve probably in at least a couple weeks at a time. Um, but like for example, you brought up Swipe Right earlier, Ricky Smokes. He's a local wrestler here. Like one day he was in Evolve, and the next day he was doing a local show here. It's like, um, so I'm pretty sure that
Hmm.
they at least tape a few in the bag. But um, what was I gonna say? I don't remember. I was I think I was going to throw some comments. Um, good fellow in the chat says, I think Briggs is the new Dijak, a big athletic man who flourishes in multi-man matches. I think you're kind of right. I mean, I think a lot of us
Yeah.
either forget or we didn't know that in the original iteration of Evolve, I mean, Josh Briggs was the last Evolve champion. Yeah, he can certainly stand on his own. I don't know if I necessarily have liked the singles character that he has had so far. It hasn't necessarily done it for me, but I don't think that takes away, his talent or his ability or anything like that. It just might not be for me. Um, but yeah, I think it could work. Um, I know what I was going to say. I know what I was going to say now. With Brooks Jensen no longer in the culling, he obviously is not going to have. I don't know. He's not going to have a whole heck of a lot to do. I don't think in NXT being an Evolve. Maybe they build him up a little bit and then eventually they reunite him with Briggs. But
Yeah,
and I
I
don't.
forget what exactly he was. I think I forget. I forget what exactly he was doing in Evolve, but it looks like. Yeah, it looks like he's going to be a heel in Evolve. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what he did, but yeah, they got something going on with him in Evolve. Who knows how long it may last? So, there's been, Ridge Holland recently showed up in Evolve as well. So, and again,
Yeah,
don't know how far in advance they tape. So, we'll see.
yeah, yeah. No, definitely see what happens there. Um, Brock in the chat says, "What could have been for Dijak?" And man, I agree. Dijak is such a talent, a good guy. Like he's now working as a trainer for a school not too far from here. I mean, he's still wrestling on the indies and stuff. But man, I think they could have done so much better for him in WWE. Um,
Mm,
all right,
agreed.
let let's talk about Dark State. So we had Dark State show up quite a few times here throughout the course of the night. Um, one of the times that they showed up was during the segment where Obafemi comes out to basically talk about who's the potential next opponent for him. He's beat everybody. There's nobody next. Trick Williams makes his way to the ring as the TNA champion, and he kind of lays claim to the NXT title. Javon Evans makes his way down to the ring and does the same. And then we also see Moose make his way out to the ring, TNA wrestler Moose. We know that TNA, I can't remember the name of the show, the upcoming TNA's show, but it's their next pay-per-view before I think it's before Bound for Glory. It's going to be Moose versus Trick for the TNA title. So makes sense for Moose to come out here, A, promote that match and that show, and B, kind of he also has some Moose has had some unfinished business with Obafemi after the X Division title was on the line between the two of them. Um, God, it was no, sorry, NXT title, not X Division title was on the line between the two of them a handful of weeks, a couple
Yeah.
months ago at this point. Um, then as we'd already seen once before in the night, Dark State had come out and interfered in kind of everything going on. Everything goes dark. We see the lights start flashing, and Dark State comes out and attacks. And this time, Dark State had kind of gotten overwhelmed by Femi, Trick, Evans, and Moose. Um, we wound up then seeing a segment where the four of them walk into Ava's office and demand Dark State for next week, or demand a shot at Dark State rather. She ends up putting them in a four-way tag match at the show in Philadelphia. I believe that's in 2 weeks, but the week before Heatwave. Um,
Hmm.
and we also saw Hank and Tank because they attacked Hank. They being Dark State attacked Hank and Tank during or after their match. Um, Hank and Tank wants a piece of Dark State as well. Ava made a match between them and Hank and Tank and Dark State at Heatwave for the titles. Um, a lot going on there, but I like the I like the use of Dark State as kind of this anarchist chaos type group, and I've mentioned that before. Like when they just come out and they kind of I don't know, they do an attack on somebody like Hank and Tank, right? Like when they attacked Hank and Tank, it was impactful, yet but Hank and Tank are kind of lower down on the card. I wanted to see them come out and try to make an impact against main eventers like Obo, Trick, Javon Evans, and arguably Moose. Maybe not necessarily main eventer in NXT, but a main eventer in his own right in TNA. Um, uh, but then Dark State just kind of gets squashed, and or maybe not necessarily squashed. It's not the right word to use in a wrestling context, but um, uh, they Dark State's trying to be pushed
They were
as,
just
or
dispatched.
yeah, they want Dark State to be viewed as this powerful anarchist type faction, yet they haven't done anything that's so disruptive and so impactful to the show that really makes you buy into it. Like, something, I mean, like NWO or yeah, I'm trying to think of like a
Hmm.
big faction moments, and they're not coming to me at the moment, but I know you guys know what I'm talking about. Um, so I guess your thoughts on the segment with Femi Williams, Evans, and Moose, and then kind of what are your thoughts on Dark State, and are they working as a faction for you?
I've got mixed opinions on Dark State. I the first beatdown of the night, which came immediately after the tag team title match. I wasn't. I was like, okay, is what it is. That's fine. The second one, I kind of popped for it because I'm like, okay, now we got some big players in the ring here that they're going after. Now I thought it was exciting that this time they actually kind of had their tails tucked between their legs this time. I'm like, yeah, I think that they should be making a little bit more of an impact. Hey, maybe go rough up Booker T a little bit. Something, or intimidate the announcer, intimidate, because Booker T, he's the wrestler Corey Graves. He could, they could do something with him. They could, something a little more nefarious, a little more vile, a little more, you know, just a little dirtier than just the sneak attacks. But I think that they should. They should do a little bit more talking here too, because I still personally don't know one of them or the other. I know them as a collective unit, which is fine. If they're going to stay a collective unit, that's fine. But like when they're wrestling in regular tag team matches, I have no idea who's in the ring yet. I don't know these guys as individuals yet. I know their names, but I don't know who they are. And that's what I want to know. I want to know who they are, why they're there, and what is driving them. And I don't know that yet. That would give me a little bit more, interest in Dark State as a faction, knowing who they are and what they're there for. But I am looking forward to the 8-man tag. I think that's going to be an absolute train wreck, but I think it'll be a fun one.
No, I agree. Uh, Ryan brought it up in the chat that they got squashed at Slammiversary, and it's like that's another thing. Obviously, you go to a different promotion, you're there to kind of help put over their talent and things like that. But um, uh, yeah, it's just the way that they've been booked. It's tough, and they have tried to explain who Dark State is. They had that angle with the D'Angelo family months ago, and they kind of did those dossiers or whatever. But
Yeah,
even that
they
that
didn't follow through with it though.
no, exactly. And like, so they've tried, but then after that 1 week, like the only reason that I know that one of them is called Cutler James is because Goodfella brought up the fact that they trying to make Cutler James look like a goof. Goodfella says that he was out of place before, but tonight it looked purposeful, and it kind of did. Like, he what he's like, you bet your butt or something. Like he said butt, used the word "but," and it was, oh, it just sounded so out of place and cringeworthy, and like it not what I was expecting for this faction, and it's not the it kind of just flies almost in the opposite direction of what I feel like they're trying to portray with Dark State. It's really weird. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to I don't know. I obviously I want to see them succeed, but I feel like Dark State is almost a failed experiment at this point. That they've got a little bit more to try and reconcile it, but yeah.
Well, as as far as him, as far as him getting squashed at
Hmm?
Slammiversary, yeah, that that can be. You had Jerry Lawler, AWA World Champion, versus Kerry Von Erich. When Lawler went into world class, he was a heel, and Von Erich would get the best of him. When Von Erich came to Memphis, Von Erich, and some people may not know this, but Kerry Von Erich was a heel in Memphis.
Hmm.
When he came in, I saw Evansville, Indiana, Kerry Von Erich, world class champion versus Jerry Lawler, AWA world champion. Von Erich came out as a heel. But the thing is, in world class, they didn't show the stuff he was doing in Memphis. And in Memphis, they didn't show the stuff that Lawler was doing in world class. So they can get by with whatever they do with them in TNA, as long as they don't bring it up in NXT and make a big deal out of it in NXT. To a certain
Right.
extent, they can get by with it. They can't make them total losers in TNA and then have them be complete badasses in NXT. But to some degree, they can kind of work that a little bit. But they need to do. They've not done enough with Dark State. They've not been consistent with them. They did not follow through on letting us know who they are. They need to do a better job with following up with Dark State if they want to succeed with this. I think there's
No,
still
it's
hope. They just need to do something very quickly.
yeah, exactly. I think there's still time to salvage it, but it needs to happen sooner rather than later. Otherwise, they're going to be looked at as kind of a
Yeah.
joke, stable, and they're not going to be taken seriously
Mhm.
by not just the fans, but I think probably not going to be taken seriously in storyline either. So, um, all right, let's take a bit of a stroll away from NXT for a moment. CJ in the chat, if I don't, Nate, if you don't mind, one Bailey question. What do you see Bailey doing at the next PLE? That is a good question. I don't necessarily know, and I did miss yesterday's Raw. I haven't actually watched Raw yet, um, but I did see that segment with Becky
I
and
did.
Nikki Bella. Yeah. Um, uh, I would like to see Bailey, because like Bailey had that moment at at SummerSlam where she kind of looked eh. Uh, I don't know. It was almost that moment where she had the kendo stick in hand in that match. What was it, like 2017, 2018? She had the kendo stick in hand. She wanted to use it on, I think it was either Becky or Alexa, and then she just didn't, and she put it down.
It was
It was almost that exact same moment almost all over
Yeah,
again.
you're right.
And
It reminded me exactly of that.
yeah, and I would like to see her almost maybe even mention that, like, she did it again. She hesitated, and she got burned for hesitating. Kind of find some fire and go from there. I don't necessarily know, who the opponent would be or whatnot. 'Cause, to be completely honest, I've kind of uh, I wouldn't say I've fallen off of the main roster, but like I've kind of replaced the main roster with TNA, oddly enough. There's only so much time in a week, but that's what I would like to necessarily see. David, what do you think for Bailey upcoming for her? Did we lose you? You're still there?
No, I'm here, but I lost you. What were you saying there, Nate? I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No worries. I was just saying, what do you think your thoughts are? For Bailey? What's next for Bailey?
Oh wow. At first I thought that she was going to turn heel again when she, suddenly was, all bubbly with Lyra. Hey, I got this tag match. We're going to the tag team house. Everything's gonna be great. And I was like, yeah, she's gonna turn on Lyra big time. And it didn't really happen. And then this last time, like you said, at SummerSlam, she kind of, she didn't pull the trigger on Becky, which, and I knew she wasn't going to hit Lyra.
Yeah.
But now suddenly she's seeming more, more baby face ish. I hate to use that, but maybe Lyra might turn heel. I don't know. I mean, they're really trying to get Lyra over, and they've done a good job of it lately. Where does Bailey fit into this? She definitely fits in somewhere, but I think it's going to be still with either uh, Becky Lynch or Lyra. At this point, I really don't see any other option on the horizon at this point. I think it would make sense for her to continue something with either Becky or Lyra.
Yeah, no, I would agree there. I would agree there. I think that makes most sense. Those are the two that she's really had the most interaction with lately. And it looks like Becky is moving on, to Nikki Bella. So certainly possible that she could, something could go on with her and Lyra to kind of revisit that. Um, I'd be for it. I'd be for that.
Yeah, that's what the
Um,
world's been waiting for.
Indeed, indeed. Um,
Sorry,
CJ,
I had to. Yeah.
no, that's okay. That's quite all right. Um, but yeah, let's move on. Let's move to my favorite segment of the night because we haven't talked about it yet, and it was fantastic. Ren Sinclair
Oh
talking
my
with
gosh.
Charlie Dempsey backstage, trying to cheer him up a little bit after losing not only Tavon Heights last week, but also Miles Bourne a handful of weeks ago from the NQCC. Potentially the NQC no longer being a thing. They what did she? I wrote it down in my notes. Ren talked about the WCQC, the Ren Charles Quality Time, and I thought that was fantastic. And she's like, "Do you know what I do? Do you know what I do when I'm down? I need to cheer myself up or something like that." And she then starts singing.
Say his name and he appears.
And then he did appear out of a refrigerator, and that was great. I absolutely lost it when Joe Hendry came out of the fridge. Ryan, I did not forget the music. I know I saw the comment earlier, and I was saving it. I was saving it for this moment. Um, and but but yeah, I This is a fantastic use for Joe Hendry. Last week we saw. I had a feeling we were going to see Joe Hendry this week because last week we saw those random flashes of Joe Hendry's face for maybe a frame or two. I think it was two or three times throughout the course of the night. But Joe Hendry comes in here and tries to give Charlie Dempsey a set of a blue silk shirt and the khakis, and Charlie didn't want it. And it looks like it's going that show of disrespect leads into a match upcoming between Joe Hendry and Charlie Dempsey. I'm certainly looking forward to that. That should be one hell of a match. But this reminds me a lot of the different, like, just Joe Hendry randomly popping up segments in TNA. I didn't watch them; they were live, but man, I've seen some of the compilations on YouTube. Um, I think this might be my favorite Joe Hendry cameo yet, in NXT anyway. How did you feel about this segment with Joe Hendry and the what's left of the NQCC?
Let me just say this. If you did not see that segment tonight with Joe Hendry, and if you are lactose intolerant, please take some lactate before you watch this segment because it is the cheesiest thing that I've ever seen, I think, in my all of my years of watching wrestling, and it was freaking wonderful. It was I lost it. I'll admit it was the cheesiest thing I've ever seen in my life. Oh
It
my
really was.
god, it was hilarious. It was so funny. It was just so funny. I'm like I can't. I just can't. I just can't. But
Oh
it
yeah.
was great. I loved it. And yeah, Ren was. He tried to cheer him up, and Ren was like, "Well, I think the only thing that cheers up Charlie is wrestling." So I think he wound up challenging him to a match. And but yeah, with the music and him appearing out of places, out of a refrigerator. Whoever thought this up is just an absolute genius. I mean,
Oh
it
no,
was
I know.
great. It was
Like
delightful. It was wonderful.
I would have liked to have been in that creative meeting. Like what can we have Joe Hendry do? Let's have him come out of the
Oh my
fridge. And I
God.
mean, truth be told, it was probably like Joe Hendry walked into the room and goes, I'm going to come out of the fridge. Let's clear it out. But uh, I think this is great. Sean in the chat. I'm still not loving Joe Hendry, but it's early, so I want to be wrong. And you know what, Sean? I love you, but you are wrong. You gotta love Joe Hendry. Gotta love Joe Hendry. But no, I get it. It's not. I don't think he's necessarily everybody. Maybe not everybody's cup of tea. But I I gravitate towards that style of comedy. In stupid comedy in general, but I think he's such a delight and such a great addition to any show, whether it be TNA, NXT. Obviously, he is going to be WWE bound when his TNA contract is up. I guarantee it. Um, but
Well,
yeah,
the thing with Henry too is because I'm normally not a comedy. I'm not very much on comedy in wrestling. I normally that's not my cup of tea. But Hendry is not presented as a total buffoon either. When he gets in the ring,
right.
he is damn good. Again, he's the man is strong as you wouldn't know it by looking at him. He's strong as a bull, and he is very very good in the ring. And if you only are familiar with him through the comedy WrestleMania segment where Orton basically squashed him, then yeah, I kind of get it. But after seeing him in the ring, he can't go, and he's not presented as a total buffoon in the ring. That I think is the difference. That's what makes me able to enjoy these segments. Is not a he's not a complete joke. He's not just a comedy act. He can get in there and he can get it done. And it took me a while because at first I'm like I don't get it. What is what in the what in the Sam Hill am I looking at here? And then as I continued to watch it, I started, it's like, okay, I kind of get this now. And now I'm to the point where I'm like, okay, this guy's just entertaining as hell.
Yeah, no, he really is. And one of the interviewers that I have really enjoyed watching as of late, Chris Van Vliet, he did a really good interview with Joe Hendry. Well, he's done a few, actually, I think two or three of them now with Joe Hendry. But his most recent one, you listen to Joe, or actually, sorry, it wasn't his most recent one that I'm thinking was I think it was his first interview with Joe Hendry. But he's just got such a great mind for the business, coming up with the music on his own, and the way that he describes how he came up with the music. He used Bohemian Rhapsody as the template in his head, and he wanted something that was going to be kind of sing-songy like that, something that changes tempo halfway through, and something you can sing along to, wave your hands to. And I mean, he came up with the bona fide hit. So much so it actually hit the charts in the UK.
Yeah.
Um, just an absolute genius, I think, in terms of wrestling. I and I mean that in terms of the entire business, not just in the ring, but how to get the fans behind him, how to have the fans just feed out of the palm of your hand. I um,
Yeah.
I can't wait to see more of Joe Hendry in WWE. It's the one thing that I do worry about is his kind of viral popularity starting to, because it already is kind of starting to dwindle a little bit. I'm hoping by the time he makes his WWE, it's not completely gone and they can still kind of capitalize on it. Um, but God, I love me some Joe Hendry. I really do.
I think that, if anything, I think that'll give it a resurgence.
Yeah, actually, that's a damn good point. That's a damn good point. It certainly could. It certainly could. Um, all right, let's move on. We still have a few matches to talk about here, and we're already hitting an hour. Um, we had well, I guess we kind of sort of talked about Thea Hale versus Nia Jax. Or no, we already did talk about that. I'm sorry. Miles Bourne versus Lexus
Yeah.
King.
Yeah.
Lexus King, he does not believe Miles
Mm.
Bourne is truly deaf. He thinks he's faking. Don't know why he would fake that, but whatever. That's what Lexus King believes, so his feelings are valid, I guess. Um, yeah, but I thought this was a pretty good match. I'm in terms of the angle, it doesn't really necessarily do it for me. But I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. I like the fact that they're not shying away from Miles Bourne's disability, which I feel like they kind of did for a while after his debut. They would hint at the fact that he was deaf, or mostly deaf, but they never really, they didn't really say it on TV. And now they're coming out, they're saying it. They did that sit down interview with him either last week or week before, where he talked about being 90% deaf in both ears. And I feel like it's, I don't know, in today's day and age, I feel like you just need an inspiring story and something to just kind of make you feel good. Um, and I feel like they're achieving that with Miles Bourne. Not like it's not, the top story or the top, act on the show, but I think that they're, giving people, somebody to look up to, and kind of making a single star, out of him. I is his, I don't know where his ceiling necessarily is. I feel like it probably is mid card, upper mid card, but I like what they're doing with Miles Bourne. Um, Lexus King, he's still kind of, I don't know, I feel like he's still kind of toiling around doing his thing, but uh, I don't know. We'll see where this angle goes, and maybe and how they convince Lexus King that he's actually deaf. But yeah, on Miles Bourne, Lexus King, and also, how do you feel about what they've been kind of doing and positioning Miles Bourne?
Um, I like it. I think they could do a lot more with him. I love the fact that they have brought this to light, his disability, and I think this has the potential to really resonate with a lot of fans. And as far as Lexus King goes, I mean, first of all, I think he's improving in the ring. I've seen a lot of improvement. He seems to be getting in better shape. And his character is great. I mean, if you remember, he was sitting in the crowd here. What was it? A couple of weeks ago, with headphones on, and
Yep.
Ava was like, "What are you doing?" And he turns out he was like, "I've had these headphones on for weeks, and I can hear everything, so I know you're not deaf." And it's just, he's being kind of a goofball, but he's good at it. And I think Lexus King has a ton of talent, ton of potential. Miles Bourne too. As long as they don't make it completely about his disability, which he's got the wrestling ability to back it up. He's really very very good in the ring, very good. So yeah, I think they can go pretty far with this actually.
I definitely didn't click the back button in my browser and accidentally leave the show. So I definitely didn't hear most of what you just said, but that's okay. Yeah, I hit the wrong button and I was gone. Um, but but no, Lexus King,
Everybody else heard, so that's what matters.
yes, that's what matters. That's what matters. We don't need to rehash. Um, but Lexus King, I feel like there's so much more potential there than what has been brought out. Obviously the son of Brian Pillman, they've kind of leaned, or no, sorry, they've not haven't leaned into that. They've kind of made mention of it here and there. I don't think they've actually come out and said he's the son of Brian Pillman, but they've mentioned like Hall of Fame father and things like that in the past. Um, I I want to see them do more with Lexus King, and I feel like every time they do something with him, he winds up staring at the lights. I'd like to see them give him a bit of a push, but it's okay. It's okay. And when I say it's okay, I was actually in my head responding to what Sean says. I just don't see a lot of potential. Again, sorry, Nate. Nah, it's okay. That's fine. We can have differing opinions. That's where that's what's you know we live in a free country for now. Um, let's move our opening match of the night: Blake Monroe versus Kalani Jordan. Um, this match kind of took place after a bit of a argument, I guess, between Blake Monroe and Kalani Jordan last week. Um, we saw Jordan Grace was kind of in the center of all of this. Blake Monroe, beating Jordan Grace a couple weeks ago. And putting Jordan in a neck brace. Jordan ended up interfering in the middle of this match and chased Blake Monroe out of the arena into a SUV that was waiting there, just like they knew that she was going to be running out of the building. Gotta love that. But
How convenient was that?
I know, how convenient, how convenient. Um, the match, Goodfellow of the chat says that got home late tonight. Was the Kalani Blake match any good? I thought it was pretty good for what it was. But we didn't
What there
obviously
was
get
of it.
what there was of it. Yeah, and I think some of it was no, actually, I don't think there was a commercial during that. That match only went a handful of minutes. I think it was already over by 8:10 Eastern time, if I'm remembering correctly. But
Yeah, because they
this
started the show right off of that immediately.
Yeah, that's actually what I was just about to say. Is that like tonight there wasn't any sort of recap from last week. There wasn't Vic Joseph, Booker T welcoming anybody to the show. It just immediately went into Blake
No,
Monroe's
they went
entrance.
match to match to match to. I mean, they were quick. I'm like, holy,
Yeah,
they're just
yeah,
firing them.
I
They're
did.
just going one match after the other. They weren't. They meant business tonight.
It was I definitely feel like the pacing was a little bit fast tonight in comparison. Yeah, in comparison to some nights,
Hmm.
but that opening certainly stood out to me too. How they just immediately went right into the match. You didn't hear any announcers or any commentators rather until Blake was already in the ring and they start talking about her. I'm okay with starting a show like that. You don't necessarily need to start the show same every week, showing the crowd, welcoming, just let's get into it. Um, but yeah, Kalani ends up winning here with a count out after Blake again runs into that very conveniently placed SUV outside. Jordan Grace tried to rip the door open, but it didn't quite work. Later on in the night, Jordan went to Ava, and she did get a match for Heatwave. She says even though she's wearing the neck brace, Jordan says she'll be cleared by Heatwave. So we'll see Jordan versus Blake Monroe at Heatwave, which I'm certainly looking forward to. Um, I I think this was a good way to get a little bit more heat on Blake Monroe. And also with Kalani Jordan, we've seen her have this little bit more of an edge to her, and even on the show, we've been talking about, is she a heel? Is she not a heel? And I think we've reached the consensus that she's a baby face, but she's starting to get a bit more of a backbone, a bit of a spine, in comparison to her original character, who was just bubbly and happy to be here. Um, I think it's some great character development for Kalani Jordan. But obviously, I think this is really more of a way to get to Jordan Grace and Blake Monroe at Heatwave. Um, how do you, I guess, what are your thoughts on Blake Monroe as she's, in the WWE? Mariah May from AEW. I don't know if you've kept up with AEW or anything like that, if you have any, comparisons to make or whatnot. But how do you think that they've been utilizing her overall so far in NXT? And your overall thoughts on the match and everything with Jordan Grace?
I saw a little bit of the AEW stuff with Tony Storm. I knew who Mariah May was. I can't say I'm very familiar with her work. Like I said before, I thought, when she appeared in NXT, the whole, over the top cartoonish type, looked like, all the bewitched graphics and the star, all this. It's like, okay, what are you doing here? It was kind of ridiculous to begin with, but when it comes down to actually watching her in the ring, she's pretty good. And the pairing with Kalani Jordan tonight, I think I could have watched easily 5 more minutes of that. They really worked well together. First of all, Kalani is just a supreme talent. I think she has the world in front of her. I think she's got, once they just
Oh yeah,
tweak her character a little bit here and there, she's got it. I mean, the girl is super super talented. She's incredibly athletic. One of my favorite matches to this day is the match that she had with Sol Ruka back a while back, which was just absolutely off the charts phenomenal. But yeah, Blake works well as I think the character works very well as a cowardly heel. The minute the minute Jordan Grace showed up, she almost had an accident, and she ran out of the ring,
that's right.
straight out of the building, and into this SUV, as you said, was just conveniently parked there with the driver. Had the engine running, ready to go. So but Jordan Grace, it looked like it was pouring down rain in Orlando because as she was running after, she was like running in these huge puddles of water, and but yeah, it works. I'm interested in seeing, and I think with Jordan Grace now having the handicap of having an injury, it kind of levels the playing field a little bit with her and Blake, physically. I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to that match, and I really hope that they can do a lot more with Kalani here and give her really something that she can really sink her teeth into. Because, kind of like Stax later on in the show, Kalani was more or less just a pawn in this storyline between Jordan Grace and Blake Monroe tonight. But, what there was of it was really, really good. They worked very well together.
No, I would definitely agree with that statement. Ryan is curious which match, the first or second time that the Soul versus Kalani happened, if you happen to remember.
I believe I only saw the first one, but whichever one I saw was absolutely just, yeah. And I forget what, I think it was at one of the PLEs, but I can't remember which one. Someone might be able to help me out there. Um,
Yeah,
but
I know they had a couple matches for the
do you
North
remember,
American
Nate?
title, but I know they had a couple matches for the North American title, but I don't I'm so bad with remembering what match happened at what show. So I couldn't tell you, but without looking it up anyway.
Yeah, it's on the tip of
But
my tongue, but I can't remember it right now. But
yeah,
yeah, anytime you put those two in
but
the
yeah.
ring together, you're gonna see magic because they're phenomenal athletes.
Oh no, I agree. I mean, I think the sky's the limit for Kalani. I've said that about a few people tonight, but Kalani. I mean, she's still so young, and she's still so new to the business, and to be as good as she is with so few years under her belt, I think if she sticks with it, I think she's going to be a great addition to the main roster, women's main roster. Hopefully in somewhat near
Absolutely.
future. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
all right. With that, I think that's going to bring us to the end of our show tonight. I'm Nate Lindberg. You can check the things that I do out at natelindberg.com. David, thank you very much for filling in again tonight. I appreciate it.
Very welcome. Glad to be here again. And as usual, you can see my NXT All Perspective reports on Tuesdays, and then on Wednesdays I cover the Evolve on Tubi. So tune into that as well. Take a look at that. They got some good up and coming stars there. As a matter of fact, the last show, if you do not catch the last episode of Evolve, I highly recommend it. It was really, really very fantastic. You're going to see some new faces that you're going to be seeing in NXT and you're going to be seeing on the main roster. So check it out.
Yeah, definitely. And I really got to check Evolve out. I mean, I know Tubi's free, but I never remember. I never quite remember to watch. I need to do that. I've heard nothing but good things about it. So, but David, thank you again, and we'll certainly
Yeah.
have you back at some point in the near future.
Thanks, Nate. Appreciate it.
No problem. And as Ryan brought up in the chat, horseshoe. Till next time, folks.